After the intense and somewhat depressing journey of The Last of Us, I decided to replay something I hadn't touched in years. At the time, it actually was one of my favorite games ever. Despite it not really being the same anymore, I was very excited to explore this staple of my younger years. As you might have noticed, that game is Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. Back when it came out, it blew my mind so much that it made me watch the anime for the first time. For once, I actually have a remotely interesting story to tell, so buckle up for story time. At the time of this game's release, I was around 12 years old, and I went to a friend's house that had gotten this game recently. I had never watched the anime before. In fact, I had a really bad image of it and always refused to watch it. But everyone else was a fan, and it was a new game, so I ended up trying it either way. From that moment on, I knew I had to have it. The visuals, the fast combat, the spectacle of it all just drew me in. Unfortunately, I had just that week purchased Far Cry 2, so I couldn't just go and buy it. So what did 12-year-old me do? Did I wait until next month and beg my parents for it? Did I save every penny I had and buy it as soon as possible? Well, not really. I took the game back to the store and said it wasn't working. After they refunded me, I begged my mom to take me to the mall so I could buy Naruto. When we were on our way home, we decided to stop in a small clothing store. I told my mom I liked the jacket they had there. Here's the problem though. I noticed the jacket was way too expensive, and I told my mom it wasn't worth it because it was way too much. Apparently, this made my mom ashamed and she got really mad at me. The old woman of the store was kind of a and she tried to sell my mom more pants on top of the super expensive jacket because, you know, she noticed my mom was extremely embarrassed for some reason and tried to take advantage of it. Long story short, this gets me grounded and she hides my new game for a week. You know, because I told her I thought the jacket was too expensive, a completely valid reason I never really understood, to be honest. Anyways, just thought I'd share this experience. After all, it's not every day I have a story to tell in one of my videos. Mostly because I choose new games I've never played over ones I have, and also because my life is kinda boring. But enough with this filler. I'm going to be playing the PS4 version, which has improved load times and all the DLC included, and of course a higher resolution. So let's get right on with my review of Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm is a 3D arena fighting game based off the anime and manga Naruto. It follows the plot of the first 135 episodes of the anime in a very loose way. If you aren't familiar with the story of the show, this is not a good way to experience it, at least not if you want all the details. Parts of the story were extremely simplified or completely cut, which might bother some fans but won't have an effect on newcomers at all. The entire game is divided into missions, and most of them don't have more than a text scroll with a basic description of why you're doing what you're doing in them. Most of them are basic combat scenarios. Very few differ from this norm, but more on that later. The main missions are divided by arcs, and on the end of each arc you get a boss fight. To even get to play any of these though, you're forced, and I really do mean forced, to play the secondary missions. You have to play at least some of these since the progression through the main plot is gated behind XP point amounts that need to be earned in the said secondary missions. These missions usually have a simple plot that explains why you're doing them, just like the main ones, except this time they're told to you by characters you find in the hub area instead of through text scrolls. Of course, this barely makes a difference as they are literally the same thing with a different coat of paint. They also have a ranking system from D to S rank, which determines how difficult they're supposed to be, S being the hardest. This all leads me to the biggest conclusion I made about this game. Naruto Storm doesn't really respect your time and pads itself out every single time it can. Let me explain though. In this game, you have a beautiful hub area, a completely 3D hidden leaf village which you can traverse through as Naruto. Visually, it's amazing to see, especially as a fan of the show. You'll see plenty of things and characters that you will recognize. You even get a cool throwing move to go faster, and the verticality of the place is pretty incredible. In fact, the visuals in general are superb, and it truly feels like you're controlling an anime, even if the lip syncing is really bad at times. いい感じだぜ。 It's hard to imagine that this game came out in 2008. I won't deny that there is a lot of fun to be had from just goofing around in this area. Sadly, you quickly realize how much this hub is used to waste your time. Although main missions can be accessed at any moment from the pause menu, so long as you have enough experience points to earn them at least, all others don't work like that. You get a notification telling you someone wants to talk to you in the hub area, so you go to them. Then they tell you something else and you unlock the mission. To start start a mission, you must pause the game and select it. Then, it will show you another character in the map which you have to go to again. Finally, you do the mission, after a bit of dialogue of course. But it doesn't actually end there. If you want to complete the game, you have to get 3 stars on every mission, both main and side ones. First time around, you can never get 3 stars. The game just doesn't allow it. So, if you want to get those, you need to choose the mission again, go to the character, go through the dialogue, and finally get to play. It might not seem like a lot, but over an entire run of this game, it really adds up the hours. I recommend you do the side quests and immediately start them again to get the 3 stars. The characters never move place, so it at least saves you the time of having to run to the same place on a later time. Besides, like this you get to see the characters spontaneously spawn in front of you, which made me chuckle just a little bit. The special conditions, and sometimes the regular ones that you need just to beat the missions, are sometimes not very fun at all. In fact, I would argue that they disrupt the flow of the gameplay and only serve to limit the player in a combat system that is already a bit limited. They task you with some baffling things sometimes, such as beating the enemy with a grab attack or win with at least 50% of your chakra left. It might not sound too bad, but when you're playing, you have to always keep these in mind. Some moves can even flat out beat an enemy with knockback damage. Limiting your chakra removes your chances to use the most fun parts of the combat. Despite it being the best part of the game, I can't deny that it's a fairly rudimentary combat system. You have a punch button that can be paired with a direction to make a combo. There's a low amount of combos and one extra for air combat. You have a jump button, a button to recover chakra, which you need for both your ninjutsu and ultimate jutsu, and other than those two, only 2 more moves use chakra. A dash, which is honestly the most useful move in the entire game, and a projectile throw that can be imbued with it for extra damage. You can also choose support characters to assist you. These can be summoned with a button press to come do one of a few moves that can be chosen before the match or are chosen for you in the case of story missions. You have a throw, and if you press the punch button for a bit, you do an extra strong punch that will propel your enemy forward. There's also a specific animation for hitting an enemy on the ground. Items are also usable, but I didn't really care for these. They can really help in certain situations and you can stock up and try different ones, but they just don't fit my playstyle, I guess. For defense, you can only block, or if you block at the right moment, teleport away at the cost of a bit of chakra. Next to your character's portrait, there is also a storm gauge, which raises by doing combos uninterrupted. Honestly, I didn't care for this either. It's nice because it automatically fills your chakra and makes your ultimate jutsu do more damage, but it's just something I barely remembered was there until I saw the flames around my character, signaling the gauge was full. The combat is very much style over substance, having plenty of flashy attacks, the most noteworthy of these being the ultimate jutsus, which play as unskippable cutscenes. These are completely unique to each character and a lot of care of attention was clearly put into them. They are honestly a highlight of the game, although you can't really skip them, but I never really wanted to, so it wasn't a bother. To perform this move, you must first have enough chakra and then hit your opponent after you trigger the beginning of it. Then you have to either mash a button, spin the analog, or press the right buttons prompted to you faster than your enemy. Doing so will result in a successful ultimate move. If you see yourself on the other end of the attack, you can do the same, but this time you'll dodge the ultimate with barely any damage taken. And this is definitely a good thing, as these moves have no cooldown, and they can be spammed fairly easily. The ninjutsu suffer from the same problem, but they are easier to dodge. Quick tip if you get bored or simply stuck in a mission, one of the fastest, easiest ways to win is to spam a ninjutsu like Rasengan or Fireball and you're set. Trust me, the AI doesn't do a great job at defending against them. In fact, the AI was not the best at all. In an instance where I actually wanted to get hit, it took them so long to do it, it wasn't even funny. There are a total of 25 playable characters, and some of these can be played with Awakened mode, which just means they are more powerful, different looking versions of themselves with altered movesets in some cases. All characters can be awakened, but only some can be transformed. All characters work the same, even if they have different animations and speeds. The buttons for every combo are always the same. For someone like me, with barely any experience with fighting games, this is great, but for someone looking for a more competitive game than this, it's not really for you. This leads me to my point that the combat system is not very deep, but it is extremely fun, easy enough for anyone to pick up and play without getting bored. Once they start limiting your spectacle-based moves or not letting you play in the way you, as a player, find more gratifying, then the developers fail to capitalize on their game's biggest asset. These wouldn't be a big issue if sometimes they didn't add these conditions of victory to missions that are tied to main progression. One positive thing I have to say about these conditions is that at least they try to add some challenge to a pretty easy game. Sadly, I never felt challenged, only frustrated, even in the very few times I lost. But I'll approach the biggest culprit when I address boss fights. There's only 9 stages to fight in. In my opinion, it's a very low number for a fighting game. There's also 2 cool little features that actually serve to make you feel way more like you're playing through the anime. Those are the ability to throw and fight an enemy on the walls of certain little areas, and the ability to clash some ninjutsu, going into a button mash where the winner overpowers the other and lands the move. The side missions not only waste a lot of your time by making you go to them, but themselves serve as filler. They don't change or add anything to the world. When it all goes down, they are essentially free battle modes with conditions and a light story element. It's kinda funny how they always start with people talking to Naruto, sometimes even straight up challenging him, but then you can still pick your character and support. The side missions are far from the only time wasters in this game. To move around faster on the hub area, you must use the sprint or the before mentioned throw ability. Both of these use chakra, and to get more of it, you need to collect specific items to take to the ramen shop. Thematically, this is great, as Naruto is seen eating ramen constantly throughout the show, and it's a nice way to implement some fan service into the game in a natural way. Gameplay-wise is where it falls short. The idea is good, but the execution once again is more padding for the game. They give you the illusion that you have the choice to upgrade whenever you want, when in reality, the items that you need only spawn in the map whenever you reach a certain milestone on the main plot. Of course, after that, you still need to go to them. Some will just be laying around somewhere on the map, others will be behind doors that require you to carry a conveniently always close box to a switch on the ground, and even fewer will be behind a door that can only be opened by acquiring a move from the main missions. Once you get them, you still need to return to the ramen shop. You would think at least this would encourage exploration of the village, but not only is everything always shown to you on the map, but the hub, despite being very pretty and great fan service, it doesn't really have much to do other than collect things like this. Characters are always around the same places, and even when they do something, they always do the exact same thing. So the exploration is very limited. Even the few stores you can find on the map are mostly useless. There's a store to buy collectibles, one for ninja tools, which are only the items you use in combat, not actual weapons, so don't get too excited on that one, and some that buy items from you only from specific categories, such as flowers and bugs. I really mean that you can only sell them to them, meaning even if you need a type of flower or bug, you can never buy it from them. You must find a mission that rewards you with said item and repeat it, as you can't actually collect anything like that, only earn it. A way to make you need to explore would be to simply have bugs or flowers laying around, which you could catch even if the mission still rewarded you with them. Like that, if you needed extra, you'd have the choice between searching for what you need or repeating the mission. They wouldn't even be useless, since you could always sell the extra for some money. Now that I think about it, the items are only used to trade with very few NPCs for other items, or to unlock new ninja tools on the shop. The game could have seriously benefited from more to do with the boatload of junk it throws your way. Every time you complete a mission, scrolls spawn randomly in the map, and you must collect them. Any not collected before making another mission get replaced by new ones. Also, if you quit the game and come back later, they will also despawn. You shouldn't neglect these, as they are the currency used to trade for new moves for certain characters. Even this has the same waste the player's time philosophy going on. After collecting enough scrolls and purchasing the move, you still need to collect them on the village, meaning just like the ramen ingredients, you get them marked on the map and need to waste your time going there. Aside from these time wasters and the actual fighting, there's only 3, well, 4 if you want to be generous, other things to do, boss fights, climbing and jumping through trees, and to a very limited degree a Naruto cannon ring toss minigame. Let's start with tree climbing. In this mission type, you climb a tree, trying your best to avoid the branches that show up along the way. Also, there's a time limit. Sometimes you have some sort of race with someone, but that's about it. Tree jumping is essentially the same thing, but you jump from branch to branch. Sometimes you're trying to catch someone, and other times just reaching a place in an amount of time. In both of these, they make you look at the instructions every single time, which is another way the game doesn't respect your time, and they both have speed boosts that can be collected. The ring minigame is self-explanatory. Pass through the rings using the cannon move and earn points for each one you do. The smaller ones give you double points, and that's about it. The boss fights, on the other hand, I have a bit more to talk about. There's 4 boss fights total in the game. Of them, 3 are giant battles. I really hope you like these giant battles, because if you want to complete the game, you'll replay them way too many times. And the only thing that sets them apart is the amount of buttons and time to do so that you have to deal with them when the quick time events start. This is the way they had to make the fights more challenging in higher difficulties. At its core, all big boss fights are the same. You're a small character against some sort of big enemy. The strategy is always the same, and in the end they end up feeling like the same fight with different movesets. That being said though, the quick time events and the short situations that are actually animated are some of the coolest parts of the game, even if you end up seeing them a bit too many times because of that repetition. The other boss fight, and the one that ends off the game, is honestly a stretch to call that, but it has an actual animated effort, and it's the first time you get to play as awakened Naruto, so I'll give it a pass. After you beat this fight, the game tells you it has a true ending waiting for you if you 100% the game. This is another way to pad out the game, as the true ending is a small cutscene with barely anything to it. I don't necessarily recommend completion of this game, unless you're really enjoying it and you're thirsty for more. Completing everything is not really that gratifying. The secret ending is neglectable, and all the more interesting things, such as the figures, music, and ultimate jutsu viewing, are sold to you. So you can just farm money. Even free battle mode earns you money, so you'll constantly be getting it no matter what you do, especially if while you go places in the village you break objects for money. The dioramas are interesting too, but even those are tied to story progression and collectible purchasing. These are small dioramas of parts of the story, and they're a cute addition that made me wish they had animated them and added them to the actual game. But after all of this, you might have gotten the impression that I disliked this game, or at least didn't have much fun with it. On the contrary though, I enjoyed Naruto Storm very much, but that doesn't mean I didn't think there was things that it could have done better. If I didn't enjoy this game, would I have played it for this long? I'm just kidding, the PS4 was in standby and it decided to just keep counting the time for some reason, I don't know. Despite the combat system being simple, I always had fun when the game allowed me to use all of it. The visuals are still pretty impressive, and it's just a good foundation to what became a good franchise. I see a lot of care and love for the source material in this game. Small things like the nice fitting soundtrack, or that every voice actor from the anime reprises their role both in English and in Japanese, to bigger things such as the details of the ultimate jutsus or the slight nods to certain episodes on characters' movesets. The game only has 2 modes, free battle mode where you play however you want, and story mode, so it's not the richest in game modes either. Maybe their budget was lower, so they needed all the padding. I can forgive that because I see their intentions, or at least what I perceive as their intentions, and for the most part I think they succeeded. To this day I still feel the same happiness I did for the first time I tried the game in my friend's house every time I pick up any installment of this franchise. For that exact reason is why I must be objective and stern with my review of it. The more passionate you are about something, the more you want it to be better because you know it can. Would I really recommend this game to everyone? Well, no, I can't, but I can recommend it to Naruto fans. As for everyone else, I recommend you try Naruto Storm 4. It's the most complete one and it has the most characters by far of all of them. Also, I think it has the most complex battle system. If you don't mind putting up with some fluff and you're a fan of the show, I recommend you give this game a try. If you're not a fan of the show, but it looks fun, then I say go for it. Just don't 100% it, it's not worth it. Not even the trophies ask you to do that, which was a bit weird, but whatever. And with that, I am done. Thank you so much for watching, and leave a like if you liked, and subscribe for more of this. See ya.
ける気がしねえ。